The dust-choked road stretched like a scar across the Texas hillside, and Alex Harper's sneakers crunched against it as if the earth itself were warning him to turn back. He'd come here on a whim, chasing a faded postcard from a grandmother he'd never met, only to find himself staring down the barrel of a shotgun held by a man whose eyes burned with the kind of rural fury that city boys like him only saw in movies. "Boy, you got about 5 seconds to explain why you're on my land before I call the sheriff," the rancher snarled, and in that instant, Alex realized this trespass wasn't just a mistake. It was the spark that would ignite a firestorm of secrets, shattering the fragile walls he'd built around his heart. Alex's pulse thundered in his ears as the deputy's cruiser's siren wailed to life, pulling him deeper into the heart of Willow Creek County. At 22, fresh off a semester at UT Austin studying environmental law, he'd imagined this detour from his internship as a quiet rebellion, a way to honor the cryptic note his late mother had left him. "Find the ridge where the wildflowers bend. It's yours." But now, crammed in the back seat with his backpack at his feet, the irony twisted like barbed wire. He wasn't some urban intruder. He was an orphan piecing together a puzzle from scraps, and this ranch, Blackthorn Acres, felt like the missing edge that could make it all fit. The deputy, a broad-shouldered woman named Carla Ruiz with a no-nonsense braid and a badge that gleamed under the dashboard lights, glanced at him in the rear view. "You got ID, kid? And don't give me that lost hiker crap. Harlan Whitaker doesn't call for backup unless he's spitting mad." Alex fumbled for his wallet, his mind racing. Harlan Whitaker. The name tugged at something buried, a whisper from childhood stories his mom used to tell about her youth in these hills, before she fled to the city lights of Dallas, pregnant and alone. "I'm Alex Harper," he said, voice steadier than he felt. "I think there's been a mix-up. My family. We had land out here once." Carla snorted, but her eyes softened just a fraction in the mirror. "Harper? As an old man Elias Harper? That feud's been cold for decades. You city folks stirring it up again." Alex's stomach dropped. Elias Harper, his grandfather, the one his mother never spoke of after the falling out. The postcard had come anonymously, postmarked from Willow Creek, with a sketch of a split-rail fence and the words "Claim what's yours" scrawled on the back. He'd driven out on a rainy Friday, GPS failing in the dead zones, until he veered off onto what he thought was public trail land. Instead, he'd stumbled into a meadow Harlan was fencing off, wildflowers trampled under his boots. By the time they rolled into the county station, a squat brick building flanked by mesquite trees and a flag snapping in the wind, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky in bruised purples. Carla hauled him inside, the air thick with coffee and stale donuts. "Sit," she ordered, cuffing him to a metal chair in the holding area. Alex's wrists chafed, but it was the isolation that gnawed at him. No phone signal, no one to call. His best friend, Mia, back in Austin, would freak if she knew. She'd been the one pushing him to reclaim your roots, babe, before some developer turns it into a strip mall. Mia, with her rainbow pins and unapologetic laugh, was the only one who'd ever made him feel seen, truly seen, after the whispers in high school hallways about the fairy who sketched landscapes instead of chasing girls. The door swung open, and in walked Jake Whitaker, Harlan's son, all lean muscle and faded denim, his Stetson tipped back to reveal tousled dark hair and hazel eyes that locked onto Alex like a hawk spotting prey. At 24, Jake was the unofficial deputy in these parts, helping his dad run the ranch while finishing an online agribusiness degree. But there was something in his stance, a coiled tension, a flicker of uncertainty, that Alex clocked immediately. He'd seen it before, in the mirror during his own closeted freshman year. "This the trespasser?" Jake asked Carla, his voice low and gravelly, laced with that slow Texas drawl that could charm or cut. Carla nodded, uncuffing Alex with a clink. "Says he's a Harper. Thinks he's got rights to something." Jake's jaw tightened, his gaze raking over Alex. Not hostile, exactly, but probing, like he was measuring the threat. Up close, Alex noticed the faint scar above Jake's eyebrow, the way his calloused hands flexed at his sides. There was a rawness to him, a quiet storm brewing under the surface of small-town stoicism. "Harpers haven't shown their faces here since I was a kid," Jake muttered. "What are you really after, city boy?" Alex met his eyes, refusing to flinch. "The truth. About my grandfather, and whatever land he left behind. The words hung heavy, and for a split second, Jake's expression cracked, surprise, maybe even recognition. But then Harlan burst in, red-faced and bellowing. "Lock him up. That's my north pasture." He was sniffing around. The older man was a bear of a figure, silver-streaked beard and arms like tree trunks from decades of wrangling cattle. His prejudice wasn't subtle. Alex had caught the slur muttered under his breath on the road, the kind that lingered like smoke from a brush fire. As the argument escalated, papers flying across the desk, Alex's mind whirled. He'd come for closure, for a piece of his mom that cancer had stolen too soon. Instead, he'd walked into a powder keg. Jake stepped between them, his hand firm on Harlan's shoulder. "Dad, ease up. Let the sheriff sort it." But his eyes darted back to Alex, a silent question in them. "Who are you, really?" And in that charged glance, Alex felt the first pull, a dangerous curiosity, the kind that blurred lines between foe and something far more complicated. The night dragged on in the holding cell, a concrete box with a thin cot and the distant hum of cicadas filtering through the bars. Alex lay awake, replaying the confrontation, the way Jake's presence had shifted the air like a sudden breeze. He'd always been cautious with his heart, burned once by a hookup in Austin who ghosted him after rumors spread. But Jake, there was a vulnerability there, masked by bravado, that tugged at Alex's empathy. By dawn, Carla returned with coffee and a file folder. "Your story checks out partial-like. Turns out, Elias Harper did deed half the ridge to a trust, but it's tangled in probate, been sitting dormant since '98. Alex sat up, hope flickering. "So, the land I crossed. It's mine." Carla shrugged. "Borderline. Blackthorn's claimed it for years, says abandonment. You'll need a lawyer." As she led him out, Jake was waiting by the cruiser, arms crossed, the morning light carving shadows across his face. "You're free to go," he said, but there was no warmth in it. "But stay off our side of the fence. Or next time, it won't be trespassing charges." Their hands brushed as Alex took his backpack, electric, unintended, and in that touch, Alex saw it. The hesitation, the unspoken war Jake waged with himself. "Thanks for stepping in," Alex said softly. Jake nodded curtly, but his eyes lingered a beat too long. "Just doing my job." As Alex climbed into a rideshare Carla called, the ranch loomed in the distance, a sprawling kingdom of secrets. He didn't know yet that Jake had slipped a note into his bag. "Meet me at the old oak by the creek. Midnight. We need to talk." Or that this trespass was the key to unlocking not just land, but a love buried under layers of denial and dust. Back in the modest motel on the edge of Willow Creek, a neon-lit relic called the Starlight with peeling wallpaper and a vending machine that spat warm sodas. Alex unpacked the postcard again, tracing the wildflower sketch with his finger. His mom, Lena Harper, had been a force, a single parent who'd waitress doubles to fund his art supplies, always encouraging his sensitive soul, even when school counselors suggested toughening up. She died when he was 19, leaving him with student loans and a shoebox of mementos, including this postcard that arrived 6 months later. No return address, just that haunting message. Now, it felt like a siren call, pulling him into a world where his queerness wasn't just tolerated in liberal bubbles, but tested against the grid of tradition. He spent the afternoon on his laptop, digging through public records. The trust was real, 50 acres of prime ridge land, deeded to Lena upon Elias's death, but she'd never claimed it, vanishing to the city instead. Whispers in the online forums, ghost town relics of local history buffs, hinted at scandal, a forbidden romance, a disownment. Elias had been the town patriarch, founding Blackthorn with his wife, but rumors swirled of a wayward son who fled after coming out. No, that couldn't be. Lena was his daughter. Or was she? The pieces didn't fit, and Alex's chest tightened with the familiar ache of half-truths. As evening fell, the motel's AC rattled like bones, and Alex paced, debating Jake's note. It could be a trap, Harlan's way of scaring him off. Or worse, a setup for violence, the kind he'd read about in headlines from rural heartlands. But curiosity won, laced with that reckless pull toward Jake's guarded intensity. At 11:30, he slipped out, the creek path lit only by moonlight filtering through cottonwoods. The old oak was a sentinel, gnarled branches twisting like arthritic fingers. Jake was there, leaning against the trunk, a lantern at his feet casting golden pools on the water. "You came," Jake said, voice rough as river rock. He handed Alex a thermos, black coffee, strong enough to strip paint. They sat on a fallen log, the silence thick with unspoken accusations. "I shouldn't be here," Jake admitted finally, staring at the current. "Dad's got the whole town riled. Says you're some developer spy, come to carve up the valley." Alex laughed bitterly. "I'm a broke college kid with a backpack and a grudge against silence. My mom grew up here, ran from here. I just want to know why." Jake's fingers drummed the thermos, until Alex filed away. "Harper's and Whitaker's. It's biblical. My granddad bought blackthorn from Elias after the split. Said it was bad blood, something about love that wasn't right in God's eyes." The words landed like stones, and Alex's throat closed. Jake's gaze flicked to him, then away, shame flickering. "I ain't like that," he added quickly, but the denial rang hollow, his shoulders hunching as if bearing invisible weight. They talked then, halting at first, Alex sharing snippets of Austin life, the pride parades that felt a world away. Jake grumbling about ranch debts and the pressure to marry the mayor's daughter, a setup as transparent as cellophane. Under the stars, barriers cracked. Jake confessed to reading Alex's backpack sketchbook when he'd been detained, a landscape of the ridge, annotated with notes on conservation. "You see beauty in this dust bowl," Jake said, almost accusingly. "Most folks just see profit." Alex shrugged. "Beauty's what keeps me going. After losing her, it's all I have left." Midnight stretched to 1, then 2, the creek murmuring secrets. When Jake stood to leave, his hand lingered on Alex's shoulder, warm and tentative. "Don't go back to the ridge alone. Harlan's patrols are up." Alex nodded, heart hammering. As Jake vanished into the shadows, Alex touched the spot, feeling the echo of connection. But dawn brought reality. A voicemail from his advisor in Austin. Internship extension denied if he missed classes. And a text from Mia. "Spill, or I'm driving out with glitter bombs." He smiled faintly, but the ranch called louder now, a magnetic pull laced with danger. The next day dawned brutal, heat miraging off the asphalt as Alex rented a beat-up Jeep from the local garage, determined to survey the ridge himself. Armed with printouts from the county clerk, fuzzy maps showing the disputed boundary, he bumped along dirt tracks, wildflowers nodding like conspirators. The land was intoxicating, rolling hills dotted with live oaks, a hidden spring bubbling clear as glass. This was his. The thought swelled, a balm for years of rootlessness. But as he crested the ridge, voices carried on the wind, Harlan's crew, fencing in earnest. He parked out of sight, slipping closer on foot, notebook in hand. That's when he saw Jake, shirtless and sweat-slicked, hammering posts with rhythmic force. The sight hit Alex like a gut punch, raw power tempered by quiet grace, the sun gilding his skin. Jake paused, wiping his brow, and their eyes met across the wire. Time stuttered. "You deaf or just stupid?" Jake called, but there was no bite, only exasperation laced with something warmer. Alex approached, feigning nonchalance. "Mapping my side. Figured I'd document before your dad annexes it." Jake set down the hammer, grabbing a water bottle, his chest rising and falling. Up close, the scar told stories, rodeo accident. He explained later, voice casual but eyes distant. They fell into easy rhythm, Jake showing him the spring, Alex sketching feverishly. "You draw like you mean it," Jake said, peering over his shoulder. "Like it's breathing." Alex flushed. "It's how I process. Mom taught me, said art don't lie, even when people do." The afternoon blurred into shared confessions. Jake spoke of his mom, gone to cancer when he was 12, leaving him to buffer Harlan's rages. He drinks more since the drought hit. Talks about legacy like it's a noose. Alex shared his own losses, the coming-out letter to his mom that she'd hugged him through with tears and tacos. She said love's the only land worth fighting for. Jake's silence stretched, heavy. Then, softly, "Wish I had that kind of brave." As shadows lengthened, tension simmered, unspoken, electric. Jake's hand grazed Alex's when passing the bottle, and neither pulled away. But Harlan's truck rumbled up the track, shattering the bubble. "Whitaker, quit jawing and work." The foreman bellowed. Jake stiffened, stepping back. Go, he whispered to Alex. Before he sees you. Heart pounding, Alex retreated, but not before Jake pressed a wildflower into his palm, bent but unbroken. That night, in the motel's dim glow, Alex texted Mia everything. Her replies a flurry of emojis and hot cowboy alert. But sleep evaded him, Jake's words looping. Wish I had that kind of brave. He didn't know yet that bravery was a spark, and theirs was catching. The ridge claimed Alex like a lover's whisper, drawing him back day after day despite the risks. By midweek, he'd mapped half the boundary, his sketches filling a notebook with contours that mirrored the ache in his chest, a landscape as jagged and yearning as his own unspoken desires. Willow Creek was a time capsule. Friday nights at the diner buzzing with gossip, Sunday services where Pastor Hale thundered about sins of the flesh that made Alex's skin crawl. He kept to the edges, blending in with his flannel over-tee uniform, but eyes followed him, the newcomer with the city haircut and quiet sketchpad. Jake became his anchor, their meetings at the Oak evolving into ritual. They'd talk for hours, the creek their confessor. Jake opened up about the ranch's shadows, debts piling like storm clouds, Harlan's refusal to diversify beyond cattle, the whispers of foreclosure. Dad sees me as the heir, but I'm just the bandage, Jake admitted one dusk, skipping stones across the water. Always fixing what he breaks. Alex listened, seeing parallels to his own fractured legacy. Elias's abandonment echoing in every unclaimed acre. In turn, Alex shared Austin's vibrancy. The drag brunches where queens slayed with wit sharper than stilettos. The queer-lit club where he'd first read Whitman aloud, voice trembling but alive. It's freedom, he said, not hiding who lights you up. Jake's responses were guarded, deflections wrapped in jokes. Sounds like a circus I'd get trampled in. But his eyes betrayed hunger, a man starving for permission to want. Their friendship deepened through small acts. Jake leaving care packages at the motel, homemade jerky, a thermos of chili. Alex countering with playlists of folk artists crooning about open roads and hidden hearts. One evening, as thunderheads gathered, Jake arrived soaked, Stetson dripping. Storm's coming. Dad's out cold, too much bourbon. They huddled under the oak, sharing body heat against the chill. Alex's arm around Jake's shoulders felt natural, protective. You're more than his shadow, Alex murmured. Jake leaned in, forehead to Alex's, breath mingling. And your trouble I can't afford. The kiss, when it came, was inevitable, a brush of lips in the rain's prelude, tentative then fierce, tasting of salt and storm. It lasted seconds, an eternity, before Jake jerked back, eyes wide with panic. Shit. I can't, this ain't me. He fled into the downpour, leaving Alex reeling, the wildflowers echo in his veins. Was it regret or fear? Alex didn't chase. He knew the terrain of denial too well. The fallout hit like lightning. Next day, Harlan cornered Alex at the general store, blocking the aisle with his bulk. Heard you've been cozying up to my boy. Think you can poison him with your kind? The slurs slithered out, venomous, drawing stares from locals. Alex's fists clenched, but he held steady. Jake's his own man. Maybe you should remember that. Harlan's laugh was ugly. In this town, blood's thicker, and yours runs wrong. Shaken, Alex drove to the ridge, needing solitude. But Jake was there, face thunderous, pacing. What the hell, Alex? Dad knows. Says you're turning me. The accusation stung, raw. Turning you? Like it's a choice. Alex shot back, voice cracking. I didn't ask for this pull between us. But denying it? That's on you. Jake's hands raked his hair, torment etched deep. You don't get it. If word spreads, it's over. Ranch, family, everything. I'm all he's got left. The argument spiraled, words like barbs. Alex accusing Jake of cowardice, Jake hurling city boy naivety. You waltz in with your sketches and smiles, stirring shit you can't clean. Jake roared. Hurt bloomed hot in Alex's chest. And you hide behind fences, pretending you're straight as the horizon. But I see you, Jake. The real you, scared but starving. Silence crashed, broken only by Alex's retreating jeep. Back at the motel, Mia called, her voice a lifeline. Babe, sounds like classic internalized BS. Give him space, but don't you dare fold. She was right. Alex threw himself into research, uncovering court filings buried in Austin archives. The trust wasn't just land, it was leverage. Elias had split Blackthorn with Harlan's father after a betrayal. Not just business, but personal. Elias's partner, a man named Thomas Reed, had been run out by small-town hate, taking half the deed as severance. Lena was Thomas's daughter, adopted by Elias in secret. Alex's heritage wasn't just queer, it was a testament to love's defiance. Empowered, he confronted the probate office, filing claim. News rippled fast. By evening, Jake appeared at his door, hollow-eyed. "Dad's raging. Says you'll ruin us." Alex let him in, the room small and charged. "It's not ruin. It's righting wrongs." Jake sank onto the bed, head in hands. "I kissed you. Meant it. But after." The fear hit like a freight train. Vulnerability cracked him open, and Alex sat beside, hand on his knee. Fear's the real trespasser. Steals what could be. They talked till dawn, rebuilding bridges with truths. Jake admitted watching Alex's sketches, envying the freedom in each line. "Makes me want to draw my own map." Alex shared his own scars, the ex who outed him for sport, the isolation that followed. Dawn light filtered through curtains as Jake leaned in, this time without pulling away. Their foreheads touched, a promise. But outside, tires crunched. Harlan, fists pounding the door. "Open up, Whitaker, or I'll drag you out myself." The confrontation spilled into the parking lot. Harlan's rage a tornado. "Filth. Corrupting my blood." Jake stepped forward, voice steel. "Enough, Dad. It's not corruption, it's me." The admission hung, seismic. Harlan reeled, face purple. "You'd throw away everything for this." Jake's chin lifted. "Everything? Or finally claim my own?" Alex stood silent sentinel, heart swelling with fierce pride. Harlan stormed off, threats echoing, but the die was cast. As Jake turned to Alex, eyes shining, the first twist loomed. A lawyer's call. The deed challenge had unearthed a codicil. Blackthorn wasn't just disputed, it was entangled with a forgotten easement, forcing shared access. Allies or enemies? The line blurred further. The easement news dropped like a bombshell, binding Blackthorn and the Ridge in uneasy matrimony. Alex's claim stood, but so did Harlan's. Decades of adverse possession muddied the waters, mandating negotiation. The lawyer, a sharp Austin firm on pro bono for queer rights cases, advised caution. This could drag years, but it's precedent for legacy reclamation. Alex felt the weight, a double-edged sword cutting toward justice and chaos. Jake threw himself into mediation prep, poring over maps in the motel's tiny desk, his presence a constant now. Their nights blurred into intimacy, not physical, but profound, hands intertwined over legal pads, laughter punctuating tense hypotheticals. "If we win the spring, you get naming rights," Alex teased one evening, sprawled on the rug with takeout tacos. Jake grinned, rare and radiant. "Harper's Folly. Sounds poetic." But beneath the levity, Jake's confession lingered like smoke. His first real step out, confided only to Alex and a journal he'd started, pages filled with raw poetry about fences that fence in the soul. Town whispers amplified the drama. At the feed store, Alex caught sidelong glares, murmurs of "that Harper boys bewitched the Whitaker kid." Pastor Hale's sermon that Sunday veered into fire and brimstone territory. Sodomite influences, thinly veiled. Mia, arriving for a weekend reconnaissance with her toolkit of glitter and gumption, declared war. "We're crashing with pride flags and pie," she announced, baking apple crisps laced with rainbow sprinkles. Her energy was infectious, drawing Jake out further. Over coffee, he shyly asked about her coming out story, a prom night standoff with bigots that ended in a viral TikTok takedown. But harmony fractured midweek. Harlan, cornered by bank notices, lashed out, ambushing Jake at dawn with a shotgun blast into the barn wall. "Choose family or that perversion." Jake, bloodied from a shove, drove straight to Alex, collapsing in sobs. He said, "I'm dead to him if I don't end it." Alex held him, fury simmering. "You're not choosing sides, you're choosing life." They reported it, Carla intervening with quiet efficiency, but the rift deepened. Harlan barricaded the main house, ranch hands divided, some loyal to blood, others whispering support for the boys finding their way. Amid the turmoil, a surprise ally emerged. Elias's old neighbor, Mrs. Elmira Voss, a widow with hawk eyes and a ledger of memories. Summoned by the lawyer, she arrived at the motel with lemon bars and lore. "Your granddad loved fierce," she said, voice creaking like porch swings. "Thomas was his heart. Ran cattle together till the town turned ugly. Harlan's pa started the rumors, stole the deed in spite." Her tales painted Elias not as tyrant but tragic, disowning Lena not from hate, but to shield her from backlash after Thomas's suicide. She took the ridge to spite him all, but grief kept her away. Alex's eyes burned. This was redemption's blueprint. Emboldened, they planned a town hall pitch, public mediation to air grievances. Jake hesitated, stage fright gnawing. What if they laugh? Or worse? Alex cupped his face. Then we laugh back. Together. Rehearsals in the Jeep became theater. Jake's drawl softening barbs into pleas for understanding. Mia coached flair, adding slides of the ridge's biodiversity. Alex's sketches digitized into beauty. But twists piled. A rival developer, sensing weakness, offered Harlan a buyout, tempting him with escape from debts. The night before the hall, tension peaked. Jake vanished after a call from Harlan, a last-chance summit at the main house. Alex paced the motel, Mia's hand on his shoulder. Trust his heart. Hours later, Jake returned, bruised but unbroken, clutching a faded photo. Young Harlan and Elias, arms slung, grinning before the fracture. Dad broke down. Admitted he envied Elias's guts to love free. Said sorry for everything. Tears streaked Jake's face. It's not fixed, but it's cracking open. Hall day dawned crisp, the community center packed with skeptics and curious. Harlan sat front row, stone-faced. As Alex took the mic, voice steady, he wove history with hope. This land isn't lines on a map. It's stories of loves lost and found. Jake followed, trembling but true. I hid who I am to keep peace, but peace without truth is cage. Gasps rippled, Pastor Hale stormed out. Questions flew, hostile, probing, but Mia's visuals and Elmira's testimony turned tide. Harlan rose last, voice gruff, boys right. We share the ridge. And maybe more. Cheers erupted, tentative. Outside, under cottonwoods, Jake pulled Alex close. We did it. Their kiss, public now, drew claps from allies, stares from holdouts. But as confetti settled, a shadow loomed. The developer's counteroffer, leaked anonymously, promising Harlan riches if he flipped. Loyalty tested anew. The developer's shadow stretched long, a serpent in the garden of fragile peace. Vanguard Properties, a faceless Austin conglomerate, smelled blood in Blackthorn's ledgers, offering Harlan $2 million to sell out, framing it as progress for Willow Creek. Condos, a golf course slicing the ridge. Temptation gnawed. Harlan's eyes glazed during family dinners Jake described, fork scraping plate like claws. He sees dollar signs, not the dust we'll choke on. Jake confided over late-night drives, the Jeep's headlights carving tunnels through night. Alex dove deeper into defense, partnering with a queer environmental nonprofit for surveys. His days blurred, soil tests with biologists who geeked over endemic wildflowers, evenings compiling reports that painted the ridge as ecological jewel. This isn't just home, he told Jake one sunset, binoculars spotting deer silhouettes. It's lungs for the valley, filters water, sequesters carbon. Jake nodded, but doubt shadowed him. Dad's cracking. Says if I back you, I'm choosing strangers over kin. Interpersonal fissures widened. Mia extended her stay, her brash advocacy clashing with locals' reserve. A bar spat with a ranch hand over city rainbow nonsense, left her lips split, Alex's knuckles raw. Jake pulled back then, guilt threading his voice. Can't fight everyone. Alex understood, but loneliness bit. Nights alone with sketches, adding Jake's profile to landscapes, a ghost in every line. Their touches grew tentative, kisses rationed like water in drought, fear of reversal a specter. A bombshell detonated mid-October. Elmira, frail but fierce, revealed a hidden codicil. Elias's will stipulating the ridge as protected trust, irrevocable, without queer community input. He wanted its sanctuary. She wheezed from her rocker, clutching a yellowed envelope. For folks like Thomas, run out but never forgotten. Alex's mind reeled. This flipped the script, positioning the land as haven, perhaps a retreat for LGBTQ plus youth, healing rural wounds. He shared it with Jake over creekside pie, eyes alight. Imagine, cabins for kids like us, workshops on coming out under stars. Jake's face lit, then dimmed. Beautiful. But Dad, he'd burn it first. Indeed, Harlan intercepted the news via gossip vines, confronting Alex at the post office in a tirade that drew sheriff lights. Witch hunt, turning God's country into sodomite summer camp. Spittle flew, bystanders murmured assent. Carla hauled him off, but damage spread. Petitions circulated against the invasion. Pastor Hale rallying flocks with sermons on moral erosion. Climax brewed at the county fair, Willow Creek's annual pulse. Cotton candy clouds, rodeo rings, fiddles wailing under harvest moon. Alex and Jake entered as uneasy duo, volunteering at the nonprofit booth, handing flyers on Ridge Ecology, rainbow pins tucked discreetly. Tension hummed. Old-timers scowled, but youth clustered, one teen whispering to Alex, "Thanks for fighting. Makes me less scared." Jake manned the grill, flipping burgers with forced grin, but his eyes tracked Harlan across the midway, schmoozing with Vanguard suits. Disaster struck at dusk. The developer's pitch, a flashy slideshow on the main stage, promising jobs and modern values. Harlan, greased by whispers, took the mic uninvited. Blackthorn's done fighting ghosts. Time to build forward. Sell to Vanguard. Save our town. Cheers swelled from fearful pockets. Boos from allies. Jake vaulted on stage, face ashen. "Dad, no. That's selling our souls." Harlan whirled. "Your soul? Or the one you sold to that boy?" The mic screeched feedback as Jake seized it, voice breaking but rising. "I love him. And this land, it's not yours to auction. It's ours, all of us, queer or not." Silence swallowed the fairground, then erupted, gasps, applause, a bottle shattering. Alex pushed through the crowd, reaching Jake as Harlan lunged, fists flying in a blur of paternal fury. Punches landed. Jake shielded Alex, taking a blow to the jaw. Carlo waded in, cuffs flashing, but Harlan broke free, roaring epithets that curdled the air. Chaos reigned. Fairgoers divided, some shielding the couple, others jeering. Mia live-streamed it all, her feed going viral, Ridgerites trending by midnight. Vanguard reps slunk away, spooked by optics. But Harlan's parting shot, hurled like a curse. "You're no son of mine." Jake crumpled then, in Alex's arms amid trampled hay, sobs wrenching. "Lost him. For real." Alex held tight. "You gained truth. And me." As ambulances wailed, Jake's split lip, Alex's bruised ribs, the tide turned. Petitions reversed. Elmira's codicil leaked to press, painting Elias's legacy heroic. Harlan, arrested for assault, stewed in a cell, his bluster cracking under solitude. Dawn found Jake and Alex at the ridge, bandages fresh, watching sun gild the wildflowers. "What now?" Jake whispered. Alex smiled faintly. "We build. Sanctuary starts with us." But resolution dangled, Harlan's release looming like thunder. Harlan's release came on a slate-gray morning, bond posted by a cousin with divided loyalties. The town held breath, fair fallout still smoldering, social media ablaze with supporter rallies in Austin, detractors fuming in church basements. Jake fortified the ranch house, windows barred like a fortress, but his calls to Alex were lifeline. He's quiet. Too quiet. Alex, nursing bruises at the motel, coordinated with the nonprofit. Blueprints for the retreat sketching in his notebook. Communal hall for story circles, trails named for Thomas Reed. Misunderstandings festered anew. A leaked email, Vanguard's desperate bid, laced with smears calling Jake compromised, reignited prejudice. Anonymous notes appeared on Alex's Jeep. "Go back to your parade, freak." Mia, ever the shield, escalated security, but paranoia seeped in. Jake withdrew again, patrols doubling, his texts curt. "Need space to handle Dad." Alex ached, the distance a fresh wound. Nights replaying the fair's frenzy, Jake's declaration a beacon dimmed by doubt. A twist uncoiled from Elmira's attic. Letters, bundled in ribbon, from Elias to Thomas. Passionate missives of stolen weekends, dreams of escape. We were kings here, one read, till crowns turned thorns. Alex read them aloud to Jake over a clandestine picnic, voice thick. This is us, love defying dirt and decree. Jake traced the faded ink, tears welling. Makes my mess feel small. But Dad, he's broken, Alex. Not evil, just scared. Reconciliation brewed unexpectedly. Harlan, post-release, sought Carla's ear, confessions spilling over lukewarm Joe at the station. Saw my boy stand tall, like Elias would have wanted. Carla, bridge builder, relayed it gently, urging a sit down. Jake resisted, heart scarred. What if it's trap? But Alex pushed, healing's riskier than hate. The meeting convened at neutral ground, the old oak, neutral witness. Harlan arrived gaunt, eyes hollowed by regret's chisel. No shotgun, just a thermos and tremor in his hands. I failed you, he started, voice gravel. Pushed 'cause I feared losing the name. But seeing you fight reminded me of my pa, before the poison set. Jake stiffened, but listened as Harlan unspooled truths. His own youth, a crush on a farmhand buried deep, fueling the venom he'd spewed. Hated in you what I couldn't face. The admission hung, seismic. Jake's walls crumbled. I needed you, Dad. Not the ranch, the man. Tears carved channels. Harlan extended a hand, calloused and trembling. Proud son. Of all of you. Alex, silent observer, felt the shift. Forgiveness not absolution, but start. Harlan turned to him then, awkward. Harper, sorry don't fix fences, but welcome at table. Alex nodded, throat tight. Table's big enough for stories. The easement settled amicably. Shared stewardship, Ridge as co-op. Vanguard retreated, shamed by boycotts. Sanctuary plans bloomed, groundbreaking with queer elders. Mia emceeing with flair. Jake and Alex's bond deepened, steady as creek flow. Mornings sketching together, Jake's lines boldening. Evenings debating names, Reed's respite, winning for its whisper of ghosts laid rest. Yet one final surprise. Probate unearthed a locket in Elias's effects, engraved for Lena's light. Inside, photos, Elias, Thomas, a toddler Lena. Alex wore it, chain warm against skin, bridge to blood reclaimed. At the first retreat workshop, youth gathered under oaks, sharing scars. Jake spoke last. Loves the real trespass, crosses every line worth crossing. As stars wheeled, Alex leaned into Jake, their hands laced. The ranch, once foe, now fold. Prejudices cracked, not conquered, but yielding to light. Willow Creek breathed freer, wildflowers bending not in wind, but welcome. Epilogue shadows lingered, but Willow Creek's pulse steadied into rhythm. The sanctuary, named Haven Ridge, rose from sketches to reality. Timber cabins nestled in folds, a central fire pit ringed by story stones. First guests arrived in spring, a mix of wide-eyed teens and weary activists, their laughter echoing like long-withheld rain. Alex, now project lead on leave from UT, guided tours, his voice weaving ecology with empathy. This land holds hurts, he'd say, but also healings. Jake thrived in duality. Dawn patrols with Harlan, who softened into gruff mentor, sharing roping tricks laced with back in my day, tales minus the barbs. Afternoons, he'd join Alex at build sites, hammer in hand, his poetry journal swelling with verses on roots entwined, not rivals. Their love unfolded unhurried. Picnics at the spring, dances in the barn to Mia's curated playlists, her visits now tradition, complete with adopted Annie status. You two are disgustingly cute, she'd tease, snapping candids for the nonprofit's Insta. Prejudices didn't vanish. Pastor Hale's flock dwindled, his successor preaching inclusion with tentative sermons. Holdouts grumbled at diner counters, but exposure worked alchemy. A ranch hand's kid, out and proud, apprenticed under Jake, bridging old guard to new. Harlan's redemption arc stuttered. Apologies to Elmira over pie. A donation to Haven from Blackthorn coffers. Can't buy back time, he'd mutter, but can bank on tomorrow. Twists resolved in quiet waves. The developer's last gasp, a nuisance lawsuit, crumbled under public scrutiny, their CEO outed in a scandal of their own making. Alex's internship reinstated with honors, his thesis on queer land rights, earning nods from profs. Mia launched a podcast from the ridge, out in the outback, featuring Jake's drawl debating denim versus dashikis. One golden October eve, as leaves turned russet, Alex and Jake crested the ridge at dusk, wildflowers nodding farewell. "Feels like coming home," Alex murmured, locket glinting. Jake pulled him close, hazel eyes steady. "It is. To you, to us." Their kiss sealed it. No handcuffs, no shotguns, just horizon vast and hearts aligned. Below, haven lights twinkled, beacons for wanderers. The trespass long past, they'd claimed the truest acre, each other. In Willow Creek, fences remained, but gates swung wider. Love, that bold intruder, had redrawn the map.